Tree Talking Time is brought to you by Conkeys Outdoors. Get all your hound hunting needs at conkeys.com. Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest fights to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game. Need reliable housing for your animals? Animal Housing Solutions in Mayo, Florida builds custom coops, kennels, and shelters that are strong, durable, and designed with your animal's comfort in mind. Whether you need a large-scale kennel or a small custom chicken coop, they've got you covered. Quality craftsmanship, great service, and solutions built to last. That's the Animal Housing Solution promise. Check them out at Animal Housing Solutions on Facebook. Animal Housing Solutions, where your animals come first. Your dogs deserve the very best, and that's exactly what Elite Nutrition Canine Products delivers. Packed with premium ingredients and backed by science, their formulas are designed to boost energy, support joint health, and keep coats shiny and strong. Whether you've got a working dog, a hunting partner, or just a loyal best friend, Elite Nutrition gives them the fuel they need to thrive. Don't settle for ordinary. Choose the nutrition your dog deserves. Find Elite Nutrition Canine Products today and give your dog the Elite Edge. Go to shopeliteglobal.com and use the code TREE10 on your next purchase. Welcome back to another episode of Tree Talking Time. Before we get started with this episode, I just first want to give a little update on what's going on with Full Cry. As many of you know, I purchased Full Cry back in the beginning of December. I am currently working on my first issue as we speak. It has taken a lot longer than I expected. I was really hoping to have an issue out by now. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of things that I did not realize and didn't know about the process behind the scenes and how to get this all set up and transferred over. And so I am working on it. We are getting a lot closer, hoping to have this out by the end of March. Don't hold me to that, but I am really trying to get this out as fast as I can. If anyone that is listening would like to contribute content to the magazine, I would love to hear from you. You can email me at ben@fullcrymag.com. Also, if you're not subscribed, you can go and subscribe at fullcrymag.com. A 1-year subscription is $36. Now, on to this episode. This episode is going to be a little different than most of my episodes. This originally was not recorded to be a podcast. I recorded this interview to be able to write an article for Bear Hunting Magazine. I interviewed my good friends Chris and Aaron Dove. Mainly Chris. Aaron is in the background and she chimes in a few times. But we were talking about their dog Buddy. Buddy was the foundation of their kennel. And while I never hunted with Buddy, I've heard a lot of good stories about Buddy, and I knew a lot about the contribution he had made to their pack. And so that is what this interview is about. It not only talks about Buddy, but it also talks about his contribution in the breeding pen and the next generation and even the third generation after him. And also, we just talk about a lot of other good things, and I thought everyone would be interested in hearing it. It's very similar to my podcast. Just the biggest thing is it doesn't have an intro and it kind of cuts off at the end. So that's why I just wanted to make sure I kind of threw this in here that this was not necessarily recorded to be a podcast, which is why it's a little different. That's kind of why we also focused on Buddy for the first part of it. So hope you enjoy this episode. Like I said in the beginning, if you have not subscribed to Full Cry, head over to fullcrymag.com. I really hope everyone enjoys the magazine. I think it's going to be great, but I'm a little biased. So, without further ado, here's this week's episode. I've heard a lot of stories about Buddy. I know enough to know he's the foundation of your program, to know he was like a great dog. So, kind of give me a rundown of Buddy. Like, where'd he come from? When did you get him? Like all that.
All right. Yeah. So it was, I'm trying to think the dates. he was roughly 11 months old when I got him. That was how many years ago? 2009. Um, so you're familiar with Bradley. It was
Mm-hmm.
actually Bradley's cousin out in Virginia, which I started hunting with them. They're the ones that got me into bear hunting. So I was tagging along with Bradley, and you know, didn't know it, but I had met Buddy, even beforehand, and led him into a few bear trees, and
Mm-hmm.
cut him into some races way before I ever realized that I was going to own him. But thankfully, Wesley was a plot guy, and him and his dad were traveling to the Upper Peninsula to get some plot dogs to add to their kennel, and they had this blue dog, and they're like, well, if we got to make room, yeah, we can move him along, and we can make room for these plot dogs.
Yeah.
So they asked Bradley, Wesley asked Bradley um, if he was interested, and he said, man, my kennels are full, which Bradley, his kennels are usually full.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a bear dog. I was just tagging along at the time, and he called and said, hey, would you be interested in getting Buddy? And I said, who's Buddy? And so he explained to me, he said, you remember that big dog that was leading you through the woods? I said, you mean the one that was dragging me through the woods? He said, yep, that's the one. So, yeah, he came from Virginia. I got him from Virginia, but he was out of North Carolina. His parents are Anderson, Blue Jake, and Puddin. But yeah, as far as my expectations for a dog, Buddy certainly he set the bar high, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's a phenomenal thing, and it's also it's like a double-edged sword. He set my bar high, and my standards every time I look at a dog is sometimes is unreasonable, but he definitely, after owning him, and like I said, I got him at 11 months old, so working him throughout his life, I honestly believe he taught me more than what I taught him. He
Mm-hmm.
was just complete natural. I mean, he had been in a wild boar pen when he was a puppy, and Wesley got him and put him on bear, and he instantly took to bear. Um, that very night that I got him, I actually went with Bradley. He said, "Now, we'll tell you." He said, "Wesley, didn't tell you, but he will trash on a deer." He said, "Other than that, he hasn't trashed on anything." So, in one night, we broke him. We broke him off a deer, and I didn't own a a training system or anything. Bradley had, I think it was like the Tritronics Classic 70, and we put it on him, and went out and turned him it loose into a herd of deer, and yeah, he took off and trailed out, and popped him a good one, brought him back, took him, turned him loose on another group of deer, did the same thing, took him, turned him loose the third time, and he went out and hunted around and went through the deer, and I called him back, and then I took him home, and from that night on, he'd never touched a deer. He had never coon hunted, but I decided to just go ahead and start coon hunting him. So I knew on the farm we had plenty of coon. I took him out, dropped him loose, and I mean, to my surprise, I didn't show him a coon, didn't have a hide, didn't have anything at the time. I turned him loose, and I guess it was just so many coon for him to run.
Mm-hmm.
He just went and treated a coon. I mean, and to my surprise, he did it in style. A dog that had never been put on one. Didn't take him much, and when I said, he wouldn't trash, to me, that's not trash, and
Mm-hmm.
I kind of set him up for success on it. But he had never touched a possum. I took him to Mississippi and never touched an armadillo. So I was coon hunting him, and Bradley was like, "Hey, man, I thought he was going to get that dog to bear hunt with me." And I said, "Well, sure. I think he can do both." He said, "Well, you need to load him up and come out and hunt." So Bradley was only he was maybe 35, 40 minutes across the Virginia line.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd run out there, and I got into bear hunting, and soon as I seen how good Buddy was developing, and what he was doing at a young age, he made it a lot of fun. So he between him and Bradley, he started a very, very bad habit for me, something that I can't overcome, and it's crazy how deep it's in my blood now, and what he's caused Aaron and I to do since. I mean, throughout our breeding program and what we expect from dogs, and and just drives us to keep it going and keep getting in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, buddy, I can tell you a lot of stories about him. Like I said, he showed us what a dog was, and it's crazy. And I'll jump around a little bit, and it all correlates, but just knowing what we have in our kennel now, this is the first time that we've ever had this many good dogs, like well above average,
Yeah.
and they're just really good all around. But mind you, and maybe it's just my absolute love for Buddy, and maybe that was my first really, really good hound, and and just that attached to him, that maybe I really don't think that he's blinded me to think that he's that much better, even though that he's dead and gone. I don't believe I'm one of those people that makes a dead dog better than what he was. But I still find it hard to find a dog that would just on every level be better than what he was.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Erin brought up, she wanted me to tell you a story, as far as even cold trailing. And well, rigging a cold track, we don't know as far as age, but rigging a cold track from the road, so I can give you a rundown on that one. So we went up, we had treated a bear that morning. I was hunting with Bradley and his group, and become really good friends with all those guys, and got everyone up there worked together and had good hounds. And we treated a bear. We were coming off the mountain. It was around holidays and stuff like that. So Bradley had to get down to go meet his wife, for the family. They were having a dinner, so we had to get off the mountain. And it was about 11 o'clock that morning. We were leaving the mountain, and Buddy just struck from the truck. I mean, just blew up. There was 5 truckloads of dogs. We had, we were like, okay. We pulled off of it. Everybody drove by, all the dogs on Bradley's truck, like none of them said a word. And we got Buddy off, and he drugged me to the track. So we went out and found the track, and a little bit of snow on the ground. So we marked it, and we left. We came back up. It was around 18 hours later. He struck it from the truck again. So we got him off the truck, and them guys, they were like, there's no way. There's no way. There's all these dogs. They got them off the truck. None of them would do anything. I cut him loose. He left out of there. And when I say left out, he left out nearly, not sprinting. It's not like it was a jump track, but he was moving it really good. He wasn't cold trailing. It wasn't, slow moving. He was running. They looked at me and they said, Chris, don't want to hurt your feelings, but there's no way in heck that dog is running an old bear track like that. He has to be running trash. And I said, listen, I don't know. I guess we'll see, but I don't believe he's running off game. And he ran in, I don't know, it was pushing a mile. Well, then he jumped, and you could tell the bear jumped. The bear just went in where it was, laid up over the night, and he went in and jumped it. Well, he brought it out across the road, and we actually put some hounds with it and had it treed. I don't think it went another 300-400 yards and treed. And that's when it opened not only my eyes. I mean, I had a lot of faith in the dog, but you never know what a dog's capable of until they do it. And that's when everyone on that mountain, they wanted me to come hunt with them, not because they needed me there. They wanted me to come hunt with them because they knew if we had Buddy, we definitely had a better chance of catching a bear.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's impressive to be able to, and not just be able to smell that track, but to be able to move it that quickly.
Yeah.
And to leave there on, not like you said, not just poking along and grinding it, but to be able to run it, leave there on the move.
Yeah, it's the track speed that he inherited from a few dogs back in his pedigree, and what he's produced in what I have now today. You can see it. I mean, it's inevitable. It's right there, and I compare it to other dogs, other lines of dogs, other breeds of dogs, and you can just see it. Put them on the same track and watch how they move it is phenomenal. And he, like I said, he inherited it, but he contributed to what I have now today. But yeah, there's a few good stories like that because you've seen Django and Treble. They're not small dogs.
No.
They're on average around 80 pounds, 80 couple pounds. Well, Buddy didn't have quite the leg that those dogs do. He was a little bit shorter, but just as stocky, just a big, houndy, good bone. He was just put together well. Good conformation. Everything about him was put together to go catch game. And God just happened to give him the brain to do it too. I mean, he just had the brain. He had the willpower. He was one of those hounds that he didn't do it for me. He wasn't really a people pleaser. He did it because that's what he was born to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so another good story. Again, I was hunting with Bradley, and we were out there. These are my early days. These are the first years of me getting into bear hunting because I was always a coon hunter since the time I could walk, all the way through. And Bradley, he was the one that's like, hey man, I like hunting with you, but we like hunting with Buddy too. So why don't you keep coming hunting? So
Yeah.
I hunted with Bradley a lot. I mean, those were the people I went to bear hunt with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they were in Virginia, but they weren't that far away. So we were out. They actually already had a bear going, and we got in, and I ended up turning Buddy loose. He was right at 900 to 1,000 yards behind the dogs. So I cut him in, and this is just telling you the pure speed of this dog. So I turned him in. Where I turned him, he was actually on the. I was just a few hundred yards from the track where I cut him. He went in, hit the track. He didn't just run to the dogs. He went in, hit the track, and ran the track. Well, mind you, where this is, so he ran out the mountain over a couple of ridges, and he where I was at, I couldn't get to it, but it was a major highway, 33, and there was guys that were lucky enough they got around there. Well, like I said, he was about 1,000 yards behind the next dog. When those guys got around there, they said, we can hear a dog coming. They said, and they got on the radio, they said, the bear just crossed the road and that big blue dog of Chris's is on his butt.
Dang.
The next dog, I kid you not, was almost 400 yards behind him.
Wow.
Tell me, for a big dog,
Yeah.
he was put together right, but to find that drive, to find that passion, to go catch game. I mean, he was just built to catch game. And I dual hunted him, so he was one phenomenal bear dog, but I really enjoyed coon hunting him as well.
Do you think he favored one or the other?
I would say when I coon hunted, I try to keep him in low country on ag land where there was typically more coon than bear, because I feel like, and he just knew the difference. So hear me out. I feel like he liked a bear a little bit more than a coon, but he still did both with intensity. And he was just very classy about how he did everything. Like I said, it just phenomenal track speed. Just if you just on an average hunt, the flaws. I mean, you couldn't hold a conversation if you wanted to talk about his flaws. There just wasn't very many. Aaron said, other than he would pull you up the hill. Well, it was uphill was fine. It was downhill. He was a stout dog on a lead strap.
He never really, well, until he got a shock collar, he never really did break him from pulling.
Yeah, he was just a big stout dog, and just like I said, a lot of drive to go catch game. And to tell you, listen to this. This just impresses me, and I still try to do it from time to time. And I nowadays I am a bit more of a bear hunter. I say a bit more, a whole lot more
Yeah.
of a bear hunter than I am a coon hunter. But I still go coon hunting. I mean, I've been coon hunting a few times this week already, and over the weekend, and whatnot. But try to find dogs that I can do both with to get the most out of them. I just hate to see them sitting and not doing something with them. And while I've got the drive to do it, I like to have dogs that have the drive to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But Buddy was one of those dogs. I'm telling you, you could, if you loaded him up with one or two other dogs and you hit the low country, you just go hunt, the farm, stay down in the creek bottoms, cornfields, and things like that. He was really good about just going and tree coon. But I tell you, you load him up in the back of a truck with, 4, 5, 6 other dogs and go hit the mountain. I swear he knew the difference. I mean, in the mountains, I know I can only count one time, and it was in the afternoon. Well, it was actually, and I was surprised that coon were stirring, but and this is when he was younger, but he had rigged from the truck. I cut him loose. He went in about 300 yards and treed, and I said, "Wow, that's only happened just a very few times in my life that they tree that easy, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt." I went in there. He had 2 coon up a tree, and it was 2 hours before dark. So I knew then, okay, he'd run a coon. I didn't scald him. I didn't fault him for it. So I pulled him off of it, and I don't know why. I don't know if, just didn't come across another coon track or what have you before the days that he matured, and maybe he really started figuring it out then. But from there on, I can't recall any time where he treed a coon while I was bear hunting.
Wow.
Because from there on, it just seemed like, especially if it, and like I said, that was in the daylight. And, but it seemed like if I hunted him in the day and coon hunted him at night, he seemed to know the difference.
That's impressive.
Like I said, he's just set the standard. He set the bar so high. And he just taught me what dogs could be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing he's taught me is that not every dog is like that. Because I've certainly looked, and we're not big time breeders, but we're really trying to figure things out and put things together. And
he didn't teach you that. Every other dog that you've had since that hasn't met those expectations has taught you that.
Yes. And it's like I said, it's just to have a dog like that. I find myself very lucky to have ever walked behind a dog, let alone own him, keep him at my house, feed him, and even breed him and get puppies out of him. But I don't know. It's one of those things that, I know a lot of houndsmen, and you talk to a lot of people, and especially the ones that's hunted with him. I've had a lot of people said you are lucky, because they've went a long time and not owned a dog like that. And a guy told me once, he said, you realize, he said, there's a lot of people that go their lifetime and never own a dog quite like that.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just special. It's a special subject. It's a, special conversation, and because he's a special dog, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure. Now, you bred him twice?
I did breed him twice. The first time I was young, dumb, and naive to the situation, and I made mistakes. I'll be honest with you. I made mistakes because, one, I was young and dumb, but two, I needed the money. And, there was times where, couldn't quite make ends meet. So I ended up, I let a few dogs go that if I knew then what I know now, that would have never happened. No amount of money could have bought them. And so I ended up breeding them again, and end up keeping 3 out of that, 2 of which are still alive. There's still others out there.
Yeah, Django in trouble.
Yes.
Out of that first cross, was there anything still living out of that?
We can't locate them. There was the one that I had sold, Banjo, that I extremely regretted. So I sold him to a guy named Justin Moore. He was a Justin Moore, I guess not the Justin Moore.
Yeah.
So that guy phoned me, and so long story short, I sold him to a guy. Like I said, I need the money. He knew that. I said, if you sell the dog, he comes back to me, and he said, absolutely. Well, next thing you know, this guy Justin phoned me and said, hey man, do you have any more dogs like Banjo for sale? I said, well, no, sir, I don't. So you've hunted with Banjo? And he said, hunted with him? He said, yeah. He said, but now I own him. So that was kind of a slap to the face.
Yeah.
So I had talked to that guy. I said, what will it take to get that dog back? And I said, you name your price. I'll come up with the money somehow. I said, I want the dog back. And he said, no offense. He said, the only way you'll ever hunt with that dog again is if you come here and hunt with him. So that went that way. I had moved, and I've tried to keep in contact with the guy, and and some of the others, unfortunately, since then, water and phones and other things and phones don't work well, and I've had some major shutdowns, and I've lost contacts over the years, and like I said, that's been so long ago. And some of those folks don't have social media. They're older folk and whatnot, and
Yep.
yeah, well, and like Aaron said, they're old enough now that some or most of them are probably dead by now.
Yeah. So basically, Django and Treble are all you have then.
Yep. They are all I have. Presley, she turned out to be a phenomenal dog, and it was a huge investment. Breeding back to, and we don't know if he's still alive, RJ, but RJ was out of that original cross. So since then, like I said, they're older. I haven't talked to that fella in just a couple of years, pretty much since the incident with Presley. But so we traveled to New Jersey. He was coon hunting, and he was, as far as looks, he was practically a replica buddy, and really good personality. And he turned out naturally. It was the guy's first coon dog, and he trained him. He read books and watched videos and went and trained this dog, and the dog just started treating coon for him. So he was a natural, and we wanted to make a line breed cross, and we bred him back to Presley. And inevitably, she was pretty far along in her pregnancy, and something happened. I think it may have been one of her major arteries or aorta or something ruptured, and she bled out internally and lost her and a whole belly full of puppies.
Yeah, I remember that. That was awful.
Yep. So, like I said, I haven't talked to that fella to see if RJ, of course, he's old enough now, even to breed, he may not be viable to breed.
Yeah. Conkeys Outdoors is proud to be a sponsor of Tree Talking Time. Family, hunting, tradition is the Conkeys motto. They understand the importance of passing down the tradition of hound hunting. They are a family-owned business that treats you like family. They also understand the importance of having the gear you need when you need it. Conkeys carries everything for your next hunt, and it ships to your door quick. They also offer great warranties on all tracking systems and financing options. Check them out at conkeys.com. You can also use the code TreeTalkingTime5 in all caps to save as well. Out of curiosity, what do you have out of Django and Treble now?
So we were lucky enough. So Bobby Eastep, which is a relative through the line there, Bradley, he had the littermate sister, which was named Jenny.
Yep.
Jenny was just a superior dog herself, and it seems that whole litter, they were young. A lot of those, there's been a few of them that had passed away early, just crazy accidents. Erin may be able to elaborate on some of those that she's read, but
by car.
Yeah.
The one was a leader. She was a leader in the Purina race back in the day. And her name was Looking for Timber Hannah. But you probably could look her up and find more information about her. But she was the litter mate to him. And she was in the top of the Purina race one year.
But like I said, of course, now they would be going on 15 years old. 16. Okay, I figured 16, 15, 16. So, yeah, so Jenny, she actually just passed away just a few months ago. So she lived that long. Of course, she wasn't able to hunt throughout that,
Mm-hmm.
but so Bobby owned her. Tommy, Bobby's boy, kind of took over the dogs after some time. And anyways, they had a pup named Misty out of Jenny. And like I said, I can send pedigrees and elaborate on that more. But so I was lucky enough to get her.
Okay.
I told Tommy that I said, well, if you're interested, if you want to let her go, I would really like to see what I can make her and possibly breed back to her, because you think about it, the grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
I would be breeding back and I would have Buddy on one side and Jenny on the other.
Yep.
So I actually made a cross with Treble first, used Treble and bred back to Misty, and we kept Ruth and Wren. That's two females out of that cross, and then we actually bred Django to Misty, and then we have one we call her Annie out of that. So we actually have three here on the place that are out of those.
Okay. How old are they?
So Annie she's right about 11 months old, going on a year, and Ruth and Wren, they're roughly 20 months old.
Gotcha.
And I can tell you one thing. It seems to me that what they have to offer for very young dogs, they started super young. I mean, 3 months old, their prey drive was through the roof. I mean, you could show them a coon hide, make a drag, turn out coon, what have you. But they started young. We're making trees. I can give you a prime example. I had on a hunt, not this past December, the December before, they would have been about 6 going on 7 months old. So, I had that, raised those puppies out of that Fanny dog, that she originated from Oklahoma, and then the fellow in New Mexico bred her and then shipped her up when we raised the puppies. So I had a female out of that with us as well. So I had Ruth, Wren, and Patron, and of course they're young, they're full of it, and they're kind of spunky. So they were hunting out a little bit further, and so I had Django, Treble, and Jack, and so they were hunting within probably 100 to 150 yards. Well, next thing you know, the pups, they were pushing 400 yards. They just erupted. They blew up. Another buddy, Anthony Sticks, he was hunting with me. We call him Sticks, but he was hunting with me. He had a couple of dogs with him. He was keeping on a lead because they would bump a little off game. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, I think I'll just keep them on a lead until you get one going. So those pups were out there and they blew up. He looked at me and I said, man, they're only 6 months old. They have been really good up till now. I can't promise anything. He said, well, they're making it sound way too good. I want to turn to it. I said, just hold on. Django, Jack, and Treble are on their way. I said, once they get there, once they, confirm what they're doing, I would send your dogs. I said, if not, who knows? You could be sending them into a coyote chase, deer chase, who knows?
Yeah.
And so they erupted. They bayed for, it seemed like a long time, but it couldn't have been but more than 20, 30 seconds. They left out. Well, Django, Treble, Jack got there. Well, they blew up and just fell in right behind them. Well, they ran up out of sight, a few hundred yards. I don't know. They didn't make it. They might have made it 400 yards, show treed. Well, the old dogs come in right behind them, show treed. So I hoofed it up there and got up there, and they had about 130, 140 pound bear setting up a split cherry tree.
Mm-hmm.
The bear was leaning on one side and had his feet on the other side. He was only about 15 feet up. So I got up there. Yep, I know more, and got my phone out, took a short video, and as I was putting my phone away, he jumped out on top of him.
Jeez.
So This thing didn't want to stay in the tree. Well, they took it, treated again. We got down there. Same thing. This thing come out of the tree, went up another tree. I'm running, and I'm telling you, the dogs were covering the bear up. I mean, he come out, the dogs would do their job. You know, they're not too standoffish. They don't mind pulling hair. And anyways, they would cover the bear up. He would pop up another tree. Well, he got out of that one. I ran down. I started grabbing the old dog's back because I was like, at the very least, let me get them tied back. I need to get a hold of them, and then I can start gathering up everything else.
Yeah.
Well, the bear come out again. He went down and hit an uprooted tree, hit that root hole, and there was, I don't know, there was probably 5 inches of snow, and them root holes fill up with leaves and snow. Well, the bear went down in there, and he lost his footing, and his legs went out from under him, and he disappeared. I mean, he was covered up with blue tick puppies and sticks 2 Walker dogs. Well, thankfully, he come up out of there, and he popped up that tree, and we grabbed them dogs as quick as we could, and no more than we were snapping leads to him, he come out again.
Jeez.
Can you believe that? Yeah. But they were, like I said, going on 7 months old, and they were doing that. I mean, they were out jumping their own bear, finding their own bear. So it was on our way out, and because it was easier to go back where they had jumped the bear. So we walked up through there, and I said, I want to do some investigating. So I hopped up, found the track where it come out, and backtracked it. So I backtracked it and found the nest where it was laying. So it was just a couple of down trees, had some brush over top of it, and all of it was covered in snow. Well, I got there, and there's just dog tracks all around it, and there was bear hair pulled out all over in the snow. So them puppies went there and rudely awakened that bear and pulled his hair out and chased him up a tree.
Nice.
So as far as reproduction, it just seems like, carrying those lines on seems to be working, and we've got some big plans for it in the future.
Yeah.
So this year, Annie was, what was she, about 8 months old or so? Well, she was 10 months old, about 10 months old. Bear season. So, yeah, so she was making races, and one thing I found, putting her, of course, I put her in with the old dogs, after we got Bear going and whatnot, and she'd get in there, and I seen where, a dog here or there. Of course, I would hunt, well, I don't know if you've met Beaver or not, but our good friend Beaver and Reuben Barb's his name, and Richard Plum, while I was hunting with them, there's other dogs, and you see dogs running in and watching on the Garmin. You see dogs making mistakes, and somehow that young dog, I mean, she just blew through all the mistakes. She had a lot of opportunities to make mistakes. She had a lot of opportunities to run off game, but she found herself at the front of the pack all the time. On every, I mean, I didn't have that many races. It was kind of a poor bear season, which is good for the bear population. I'm okay with that. Don't really mind killing bear, but I don't mind. Well, yeah, I guess I could say I don't mind killing a bear, but there's some folk around here that they really like killing a bear, and so like I said, I don't get excited about killing bear. And for me, December season, it's just a time to take off, and that's when everybody else likes to, get out and go hunt. So I kind of partake in it, but it definitely suppressed all the others. So people that were normally shooting everything legal or barely legal, or if they can make it legal, they didn't get to shoot as many bear this year. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
I can only hope this spring, there's going to be some bear running around.
Yeah, hopefully. What else I know you've bred Django a few more times. Do you have anything else out of him?
So we've only bred him, as far as blue tick, we bred him one other time. And when we made the conversation and everything, the gentleman, Dwayne out in Virginia, he's got a really nice line of kind of Vaughn and a little bit of Smoky River and whatnot there. But he was bad about keeping up with his papers. And he said, I know I had papers on her. He said, if we make this cross, if I can find them, we'll register the litter. Well, unfortunately, he never found the papers, and it turned out to be a really good litter. We kept Murdoch,
Yep.
and we had Murdoch for quite some time, and he turned out to be. I mean, in all honesty, I mean, I don't mean to sound like every dog that comes out of that is just top notch, but we put in a lot of effort, and we pushed the dogs to be what they are. And he was an upfront running dog, had plenty of grit, just a good natured dog, and everything else. And to be honest with you, we were really down that we didn't have papers on him. And I know there's folks out there that, would just breed him and put it under another dog, but we couldn't do that. We made a vow when we were going to go this route. I've always had blue ticks, but when we decided to get rid of the plot dogs and get rid of everything else and just focus on the blue ticks, we just made a solemn vow that we were going to do it the best that we could do it.
Yeah.
And so we sold him just because he didn't have papers, and that kind of down about it. But the gentleman who got him, he's actually phoned multiple times and just in awe. He's like, I didn't know. This is what he told me. He said, Chris, I didn't know they made blue ticks that fast. He said, I've hunted with a lot of guys, and he said, everybody, plot walkers and everything else. And he said, fast running dogs. And he said, fellas, I think I've got a dog that could keep up with yours now.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, all right, let's see it. And he pulled it out, and it was a blue tick, and they laughed at him.
Yeah.
So he started turning it loose, and he said, next thing you know, he said everyone had a kind of a change in attitude. He said there wasn't a dog that he turned loose with that dog wouldn't run ahead or at least run with.
Yeah.
So, kind of making an impression. Even like I said, he was unregistered, but he's making an impression and making blue ticks look good.
Mm-hmm. Whatever.
Okay.
Happened.
And Daisy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That other female. I can't remember her name.
Yep. So Daisy, she was an Dutchman bred dog.
Mm-hmm.
She was a really good natured dog. She was above average speed, probably a medium nose, phenomenal tree dog. And she wasn't afraid of getting up close and grabbing a bear. So we made that cross, and we had one young. We ended up losing her, and so then we had the other female, which we ended up sending her to New York. But to be honest with you, so it turned out they were kind of slow starters. Mm-hmm. They were slower starters than what I cared for, and it seems like they kind of finished out well because we've kept up with several of them, and we're getting really good reports.
Yeah.
We honestly just decided to go a different direction with breeding.
Mm-hmm.
Not downing Dutchman breeding, just saying, from what we've seen and what we have a long history with, we decided to go back to what we knew and what we knew worked. We like the looks, we like the conformation, the mouth, and we like the earlier starting. There's just some different qualities on the lines that we currently have that we wanted to stick with. So that's what we did. We inevitably end up not keeping any out of that litter.
Yeah.
But like I said, our standards, we've agreed to set our standards high and try not to settle for much. And, we just decided, like I said, to go a different direction with that. And then we made a crossbreed, but it was unregistered. So we bred Django back to an English dog. And from what we've got, for what we've kept up with, it seems like they fall right in and do their jobs. A lot of those dogs, of course, I didn't have any input or anything on puppies sold and where they went and keeping up with them. And maybe it was because it was crossbreed that I wasn't as interested in, keeping up, because it's hard to follow what I'm doing as far as breeding dogs, and keeping true to what I'm doing and be able to follow through genetics and see traits and whatnot. And when I'm, a crossbreed, there's a whole lot of stuff there that I'm unfamiliar with. So, like I said, as far as keeping up with them, I didn't. it seemed like he produced dogs that would, as long as you put in the time and effort, they would do their job.
Yeah.
And as far as, like I said, the even the crossbreed, and then of course with the ones that we bred him to, just it happened to work out where we didn't make a cross until now. There to where we're like, okay, we're on the right track of where we actually want to be with the dogs that we have here, and that was in all honesty just bringing back dogs in those pedigrees and line breeding on it and getting as close as we could back to the to those buddies and those jennies and the dogs further back in that pedigree.
Quit going and looking for the next best thing, and you just went back to the source, or as close as you could, at least.
Yep. And it's all everyone's perspective. Each and every person has a different perspective, and it's all what you can live with too. And you know me, I do get picky and whatnot. And I'm not saying that.
Not you, Chris.
Yeah, not me at all. Yeah, I'm not saying that there's not other good lines or good breedings of dogs out there. I've tried a lot of stuff, and I didn't clash with it. It just wasn't for me. I can see where a little bit of this here and there adds in. I can see where it makes what I have better. But going back to what I've had and what showed me the direction I wanted to go in the first place, I figured out quick, the closest I could get back to that, the better off I was.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then I met Alex out there in New Mexico, and he was here for work, and he just happened to get a hold of someone I knew as a mutual friend, and he said, who in the area has blueticks I can get up with? And he gave him my name and number. So he called, and he said, hey man, I hope you don't mind. Glenn gave me your number. He said, this is who I am. I'm here work. He said, I've been out of town for a month or so for work. And he said, I'm having withdrawals. He said, I need to see a blue tick. He said, is there any way like I can just come visit, meet you, and see your dogs? I said, man, I can do you one better. I said, I'm busy today. I said, tomorrow evening, I said, I could meet you and we can go for a hunt as long as you're here close enough and you can meet there in Parsons at the BFS. And he said, well, man, I can do that. So we loaded up and we went over and turned loose on the National Forest, and we just went over. They rigged a track. We turned loose. The dogs ran over the mountain, down along the river, and we lost track and had to go around through town and come back up along the river on the government road, and got over there, and they were treed about 15 yards off the road right next to the river.
Nice.
And he said, holy crap, man. He said, well, I didn't get to run with them and see the whole race. He said, but in my opinion, he said, you got dogs that'll tree bear right next to the road like that. They're pretty good in my eyes. So that's kind of how we got started. And of course, we've, just kept in contact ever since. And he started sharing information with his dogs, and I shared more information with my dogs. And then I got a pup from him, which I'm very pleased with. And I traveled out there and met him. I actually met him in Arizona and hunted for a week and was very pleased with his dogs. And, a lot of familiar dogs in the pedigree. Just a lot of that stuff went far enough back. Here in the East, we've just lost it. There's a lot of those dogs that they've line bred and they've kept up with, along with a few other breedings. And well, to say the least, I was intrigued to try what he had. So since then, I've actually, so I've got Lynch. Then I had Fanny shipped up, and I've kept 2 females out of her. Then I went straight to the source, Jim England in Oklahoma. Actually, he just called me there about an hour ago. I talked to him a little bit. He's planning on making another cross that I'm interested in getting a pup from. Which let me remind you, I'm puppy poor. We went and built these new kennels and filled them up, and there's no talk to Aaron about adding on any additions to the kennels. It is what it is. So, yeah. Yeah, she said I get 11 kennels.
You might as well add on to the kennels, otherwise you're going to end up with some barrels and chain spots.
Yeah. She said I'm allowed 11 kennels and a puppy pen. But anyways, yeah, I got introduced to that line of dogs, which is a lot of it goes back to Diamond Jim, Ellis Blue Jim, Buzz Anderson, Jim England breeding, and there's some Guy Ormiston breeding and that stuff. So very well put together dogs, good track minded, good mouse, good tree. Definitely, they like to run the catch. A lot of good things there to add in to what we've got. I don't know if I can make what they have better, but I'm hoping to make what we have better at the very least, and maybe do some crosses back and forth and do some experimenting to see the possibilities. Because there's some two good lines of dogs, and my plan is to keep both lines going strong. And then make crosses in between and do some experimenting in between, but do the best I can to not lose both lines of dogs.
Mm-hmm. You got your hands full with that project.
Let me tell you, it's constant, and this weather that we've had lately. Oh man, I mean, you want to talk about cabin fever? It's been so bad. Which we had about 2 feet of snow down low, and it was a little over 3 feet up in the mountains. I had chains on the truck. I was just doing ridiculous stuff to try to get back in the mountains to go look for tracks that didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was wading through snow up over my knees, just beating myself to pieces. And just because I couldn't stand it, I had to go try, but I wasn't finding tracks. Of course, there's no bear tracks. They've been laid up since fall. And few bear out in December, but most of them laid up in the fall. Yeah. And I was out looking for bobcat tracks, and even bobcat wouldn't move in that stuff. Few coyote tracks running the roads, and few deer tracks. And coon. I mean, you weren't going to find a coon out in that.
Nope. Speaking of bobcat, here in 2 weeks, I'll be in South Texas running some bobcats.
Oh man, that's awesome! They've got some big, beautiful cats down there.
Big old pack of running dogs.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's crazy to me how well they tree. They just seem to tree a lot better.
Yeah.
If you've got dogs that can stay true to the cat, stay true to the track, and put pressure on it, they will climb a tree. Yeah, it seems here. You'll tree them at night. They seem to tree a little bit better at night, mm-hmm. But then as soon as you try to get in close to them, they bail out and take off again, and it's just a constant and just chase. They'll jump out. I had one jump out. I swear the thing was 18, 20 feet up in the tree, and it just bailed out over top of my head, out over top of the dogs, landed on its feet, never skipped a beat. It just took off. But in the daylight, it seems like if they'll tree, you just don't typically tree them here. They'll bay up along the river, up in the rocks. They typically go to hole. They'll go to a den or something like that.
Yeah.
They're still fun to run. I tell you, hands down, one of my favorite game animals to pursue with a blue tick hound. I don't do it as often because I don't know. I find it typically if the bear are moving, I can generally go find a bear track, and at this point, I've got pretty broke bear dogs, and I can trust what they're running. So when I say I really do it is one of my favorite. If I'm going to set a trap, I want to set a trap for a bobcat. If it's snow on the ground and there's no bear moving, I want to go find a bobcat. But in honesty, I usually got to have snow on the ground, so I can go track it and then put the dogs right on it. But if I can put them on it, they're just trashy enough. They'll chase it. They'll chase a little off game. I can usually coax them. Then it takes me 2 or 3, and then after they get the hang of it, then it's a lot of fun. But this year with the weather, it's definitely been suppressed.
You just need to go somewhere further north where they got a whole bunch of them.
I know. And it's crazy that usually when you have cold weather and stuff, the predators thrive.
Yeah.
You know, but I kid you not, they just weren't moving. The end of December, we had snow, and I was finding fisher tracks. I was finding bobcats. They were plentiful. Then we got all that cold weather. I mean, well, Davis, which is about 40 minutes from here, they hit a record low. It was negative 28 one night.
Jeez.
Yep, just here when we had that cold spell. So we were in the negatives. I mean, we had negative teens and negative 20. So it just got so cold, and then it stayed cold, and the snow just seemed to last forever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure. I luckily do not have snow and have not had near as much as you, and I've not had to deal with all that. We did have some cold.
Ask for it. Yeah,
we did have some cold temps, but not all that.
Yeah, and it's hard to complain about because we don't. We just haven't had a hard winter in so long, and when you finally get one, you learn to cope with it. I did, I had side by side, and wasn't long. I decided I needed to get a snow plow. So luckily, a buddy upgraded, bought a really nice plow, and sold me his used one. I hooked it right up and kept us plowed out. But you can only hope with weather like that the fleas and ticks and mosquitoes and all those other nasty bugs that maybe it took care of some of them.
Yeah, hopefully.
But, well, man, hopefully you got what you needed. If you need anything else, I don't want to be long-winded and just keep on rambling.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.